Peace. My name is Allah Faber. I'm the creator and owner of BabyBeautiful.co, which is an online baby store to sell baby clothes. I'm fortunate to be able to do another video out of the series of videos that I've been doing to bring people aware and make the public aware of the baby store, what it's all about, and what we sell for our products. Each week I do a video that goes into that and deals with issues that surround the babies, because that is something that I'm focused on with the online baby store. So each week I do a video that pertains to that. Now this week, in this video, I want to first start off with saying this, that Thursday that just passed, today is Saturday, Thursday that just passed was a tragic incident that happened in the Bronx, where a family, well, several families for that matter, 12 people was killed as a result of a fire that happened in the Bronx. So that was 12 people that lost their lives, and they reported that 4 others were still in the hospital, so they don't know the results of that as of yet, but they're still in the hospital. But as it stands, 12 people was killed in the fire that happened in the Bronx. So I want to start off with saying that is a tragedy and a serious loss to many people and their family as a result of what happened. So far, what they have been able to gather in their investigation, they said that a 3-year-old boy was left alone in the kitchen playing by the stove, and as a result, this is what caused the fire to happen. But the mother of the 3-year-old was able to grab the 3-year-old along with her other children and escape the apartment before the fire was able to consume the whole building, killing like 12 people. So I wanted to start off this video with giving condolences to all those that lost their lives and their family members during that tragic incident. Because oftentimes we don't think of those people that, when they speak about incidents happening in different areas and locations, it goes on like, everything is a normal thing, like this is normal. Well, that wasn't normal. And I think that many people today need to really look at the tragedies that happen, not just there in the Bronx, but that happen every day, that take the lives of people or family members of people that they will no longer see or have time to share with as a result of what happened to them. And I think of another tragic incident that happened Malcolm X's grandson, who was named after him, when he was 11 years old, he was staying with his grandmother, Dr. Betty Shabash at the time, who was the widow wife of Malcolm X. he had set a fire in the house when she was there, and she was unaware that he had set the fire. And as a result of that, she was killed in the fire. He was able to escape, but she was killed in the fire. So I had to think about that as I'm thinking about these 12 people that was killed in the Bronx, because that happened in Mount Vernon. That's where she lived at the time. Now, Dr. Betty Shabazz, if many people are not aware of who she is, she was the widow of Malcolm X. At the time that he was killed in 1965, it was February 1st, 1965, that he was killed in the Audubon ballroom. She was carrying their two twin daughters that he didn't know about at the time. She was going to surprise him on his birthday and tell him that she was pregnant. Well, that was never to be. So he left the world knowing that he had 4 daughters, not knowing that she was pregnant, carrying his twins, which would have gave him a total of 6 daughters. But he never knew about the 2 that she was carrying. So when he left, he only knew about 4 daughters. She later on had the 2 twins, and that made a total of 6 children. But I think about that because her 11-year-old grandson had set a fire in the house, and she was unaware of it, and as a result, she lost her life. Now, Dr. Betty Shabazz had become well known in her own right. She had went on after Malcolm's death, got a doctor's degree, raised her 6 daughters, and she was teaching at Medgar Evers College for a number amount of years. So she had went on with her life, even though what had happened to her husband. She managed to still go on with her life and raise her 6 daughters. And this tragic incident happened with her grandson setting a fire that ultimately killed her, which was a tragedy. He would later on, years later, he would be violently killed in another country. But he would have changed his life after the fire that he set that killed his grandmother. He changed his life later on after he had went to prison 2 times, came out, and he decided that he wanted to become an activist. Started speaking out on a lot of the causes that blacks suffer from in America, and he was going all over. He was following sort of like in the footsteps of his grandfather, Malcolm X. Well, as the years went on, he wound up being violently killed in the country. Now there's speculation as to what happened and what surrounds his death, but I don't want to go into any of that because that's neither here nor there. But I just mentioned it because I'm thinking of the 12 children. Well, it wasn't children. They said it was a mixture of adults and children that was killed in the Bronx. But I mention it more so because I can recall coming up in the South Bronx. I was born and raised in the South Bronx. But I can recall coming up in the South Bronx and many fires happening. You know, the Bronx was back then so many fires all over. It was like it was happening every day. So I can remember that vividly growing up as a child. Some years later, they wind up doing an investigation and disclosing that many landlords were setting their buildings on fire or paying people to set their buildings on fire so that they can collect on the insurance. If that is true, then these people were despicable and disgusting people. To destroy lives of people and kill innocent people, because many people died and was killed in those fires during those time periods. I can remember it growing up practically every day happening. Fires. I mean, my family was burned out of many different buildings that we lived in. I remember that growing up very well. So I wanted to make this video and give condolences to the family members of the 12 people that died in that fire Thursday in the Bronx. It is a tragedy and something that should not have happened. And as a result of their investigation, they're saying that a little baby, 3 years old, was playing by the oven, left alone. And as a result of that, this caused this to happen. Now that's what the investigation revealed so far. Now, of course, they may come out with more, but as it stands now, that's what they revealed on the news about how the fire actually was started. It is a serious tragedy. So I wanted to start the video off with that. And take a moment to just reflect on that. Now today is December 30th, 2017. So we have one more day in this 12-month cycle before this period ends. Last week I spoke about the DNA and life itself. And in that video, I said that we don't acknowledge the new year on January 1st in my nation and my way of life because we deal with the new year as it has traditionally been dealt with by our African people for hundreds and thousands of years. They observed the new year when the equinox took place in the month of March. because that was the changing of a cycle that takes place in the universe. Now, I didn't go into what the equinox actually means because I said if you really wanted to know about that, you can look it up yourself. But it takes place twice a year, in the month of March and in the month of September. Now, what it actually means and what actually happens, if you really want to know about it, you would have to look it up. But now, this will be the video for this last cycle. And I wanted to start it off with dealing with the tragedy that happened in the Bronx with the 12 people being killed as a result of the fire. And take a moment to reflect on that. Because oftentimes we hear about incidents, but we go on with our daily lives as if, it wasn't nothing, that it didn't really mean anything. But people losing their lives and family members losing people in their family that they will never see again, that means a whole lot. And if you've ever lost a family member, you know what it means. And if you haven't, and you know somebody else that did, then you should have some kind of idea of what that means and the feeling that comes along with that. So we should always reflect on people losing their lives tragically without any fault of their own. It's a difference when people lose their lives in tragedies that had nothing to do with them at all, as opposed to someone being killed as a result of a situation or incident that happened that involved them. There is a big difference. Even though that they both lose their lives, there's a big difference between the two. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And I want to go on to say this, that the website babybeautiful.co is about economic development and community building. That's the purpose of me establishing this, to begin to start to do our independent economic building so that we will be able to control our own communities and be able to economically, politically, culturally, socially, and educationally control every aspect of our lives. That's what all of the videos that I make is geared towards. And it starts with the future generations of our nation, the babies. That's why you see the logo in the background of the baby. And the name of the website is babybeautiful.co, because our babies are beautiful, so we need to secure the future for them. The only way we can do that is by building economically to establish communities where they will grow up and we control how they are molded and shaped on all aspects, economically, politically, culturally, socially, and education. We control all of that because we live in a world today where if children are not properly educated and taught and reared and nurtured the proper way, then the end results could be very dangerous to the society and the world in which we live. We've seen examples of that with the violence, the gangs, the drugs. We've seen all of that all throughout the course of American history. We've seen that. So we don't need to repeat that cycle. To change that, we have to be an instrument of change in the lives of the people that we come in contact with and the people that we touch. But we have to make sure that we are together. Now, I always deal with each video, I point the finger back to self. Because we could talk about saving the world, but we can't do none of that until we first save ourselves. The greatest challenge that we face is the challenge of self. Until we meet that challenge, we won't be able to do anything for anybody else. So I always focus on that because I know from experience that our greatest challenge is the challenge of self. And in each one of the videos, I do not fail to mention that because I want it to be well understood that until we challenge ourselves, changing our values, our morals, our principles, our behavior and our actions, changing our mindset, changing the way that we see the world and how we interact with others in the world, we will not be able to do anything if we don't do those things first. It starts with self. I always speak about that we can read, research, study all of the books, materials, and all of that. But none of that is going to mean a thing until we start implementing those things in our lives, until we start being that instrument of change in our own individual lives. It's not going to happen. We must be that change. And in one of the videos I spoke about Mahatma Gandhi, who was an Indian leader that fought against the British for the independence of India and bring them out of the colonialism that they was under by the British. He said, we must be the change we wish to see in the world. Let me say that again. He said, we must be the change we wish to see in the world. I think that is profound. We must be the change we wish to see in the world. Because many people talk about change. Or what are they doing to bring it about? Because change is a process. And that process starts with self. Sure, we can change. But when are we going to start the process? Even in our own families, we have people that we know that they need change, and probably even speak to family members about change, but many of them are either not ready or unwilling to change. And I spoke of, last week, I spoke in the video about when you have family members that they're not ready or unwilling to change, you have to pass them by. You have to move forward. You cannot allow yourself to be stagnated because of family members that fail to see that they need to change or unwilling to change. Don't allow that to hold you back. Because oftentimes that happens and people find themselves in a situation like that in their own family. And I'm saying to you today, do not allow that to happen to you. Because I've spoken to many people and they become frustrated, aggravated, and irritated because they can't convince or persuade family members to change their behavior, to change their actions. So they become so frustrated, irritated, and aggravated to the point where they stop moving forward. No, you can't allow that to happen, because you will become no different than them now. Because if you know, those who know better do better. Those who know better do better. So don't allow them to stop you from moving forward. We live in a world where there's many opportunities for you to do a lot of things. So don't allow others, or even family members for that matter, to hold you back or stop you from moving forward when you know that this is the right thing to do. Don't allow that to stagnate your growth. Move forward with or without them. You don't need them to move forward. Sure, it would be good if they can go with you, but you don't need them to move forward. If they decide that that's not what they want to do, can't force them. You got to move forward. And I know many times it's painful to do that with family members. But you must always think about that this is bigger than your family, that it's bigger than you. So you have to move forward. Don't get caught up in your family or get caught up in yourself. Gotta move forward. There's a whole world out there. You have an opportunity to be able to make a difference. But you first have to do it with yourself. And it starts with looking at your values, your morals, and your principles, your behavior and your actions. Looking at all of that. Because many times we value the things that have no value whatsoever. You know, I walk the street every day and I see all of the young brothers and sisters wearing the Michael Jordan sneakers. Michael Jordan hasn't played in the NBA since 1990s. His last championship was 1998. I know that well because I used to follow it as a result of teaching a brother who was a fan of Chicago. That's where Michael Jordan played at, and he got the 6 championships. He was a fan of that, and that was how I started getting into basketball as a result of him because I was teaching him. So he was interested in that. So I got into that to be more effective in teaching him. So that's why I know Michael Jordan hasn't played and got any champions. He retired after he got his last championship in 1998. That was his 6th ring. Because they won championships back to back. First they won 3, then he retired for about 17 months, then came back and then won 3 more. So that gave him a total of 6 championships. Now most of the young brothers and sisters that I see wearing Michael Jordans today, many of them wasn't even born then. So they definitely didn't know anything about Michael Jordan. But they wearing his sneakers as if he's playing in the NBA today. It shows the value system. It shows how they have been influenced and systematically indoctrinated to buy Michael Jordan sneakers. And Michael Jordan hasn't played in the NBA in all these years. But you would think that he's playing today because they're wearing his sneakers as if he's playing today. That shows you how the value system is, where they have been systematically indoctrinated with this idea that you have to get the latest styles. And the latest styles is Michael Jordan sneakers. That's what they told them. So you have many of them wearing. I even see older people wearing. When I say older people, I'm talking about they in their 30s and 40s, even 50s, wearing Michael Jordans. Now, they've been around long enough to know some history about Michael Jordan, even to have seen him play. But they are also affected by the systematic indoctrination, where they tell you what to wear. See, we live in a country in America where we are being taught what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, what to wear, how to dress. All of these things are being taught to us in a society that we live in, and we don't question it at all. And I spoke about in one of my videos how many times I walk in the street and people are amazed by the way I dress. They got to look at me a second time like, that's because I'm not wearing often the clothes that they're wearing, or the majority of the people that live in the inner city wear. Because they caught up in the styles. That speaks to their value system. So it's odd the way I dress, but it's the norm the way they dress. So you see how that works? It's odd the way I dress, but it's a norm the way they dress. It's normal. They don't see anything wrong with the way they dress. Even my sister asked me, she said, you go to work, you dress like that when you go to work? I said, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't I dress like this when I go to work? But it was kind of surprising to her that I would dress like this going to work. Why wouldn't I dress like this going to work? See, this is the mindset of our people. So even in my own family, they even see it because they're affected by the same thing that many black people in America is affected by. Their value system comes from the same system. It's the same system. It ain't no difference. They grew up in the same place, same areas. They went to the same schools. I mean, they was taught the same things. So in their mind, it's normal. They don't see anything wrong with it. That's why when I spoke about, in one of my videos, I dealt with diet, the key to longevity. And I spoke about how we eat the way that we was taught to eat. Not that it's good for us. We just eat it because that's the way we was taught to eat. That's the way we was brought up. So that's why many of us have poor health. We have all kinds of sicknesses. Many of us are on all kinds of medications. We got to visit the doctor on a regular basis. And all of this could be avoided if we looked at our diet and examined the foods that we ate, the nutritional value of those foods to us. We could prevent a lot of that from happening. But we don't do that because we've been conditioned to think, act, and live a certain way. It goes back to what I was talking about with the false information, miseducation, and indoctrination. That's the conditioning that we are under. So everything we do comes out of that conditioning. Now, whether you want to admit it or not, that's just the reality of it. Because many of us don't even have our own individual original thoughts. We are acting out of conditioning that's already there. That's why when they see me dressed like I dress, they're reacting to it because it's out of the norm. So it's hard to them, but not to me. Because, see, I'm not caught within that conditioning. So it's not out of the norm to me. It is the norm to me. Because my state of mind has not been shaped by that value system, those morals and principles, those actions and behavior. No, I changed that a long time ago. So when I dress the way I dress, it's because I dress this way because it's consistent with my history, tradition, culture, way of life, and I walk in the spirit of my own people. So I dress like this with all those things in mind. Now ask yourself why you dress like you dress. There's no other explanation. It's as a result of your conditioning. Because you wearing clothes of people that you don't even know. Have no history, tradition, culture, or way of life that is reflective of your own history. So you need to think about that. Not thinking about the way I dress or looking at my clothes. I wear African clothes. Yeah, that's my people. And I don't have anything that I think is odd or different about that. One of the historians that I've studied throughout the years, Dr. John Henry Clark, he said in his book, African World Revolution, subtitled Africans at the Crossroads, he quotes Timothy Callender in an article, The Basis of African Culture, that Timothy Callender wrote, The Basis of African Culture. He quotes from him what he said. And the quote is this. He said, "What we do for ourselves depends on what we know of ourselves and what we accept about ourselves." Let me say that again. He's quoting Timothy Callender from The Basis of African Culture. He said, "What we do for ourselves depends on what we know of ourselves and what we accept about ourselves." Now, think about that for a moment, because if we don't know about ourselves, then that will automatically shut us down history-wise as a people. Because we got to know our own history. And some people have a problem with that. I'm talking about black people. Now, I don't want to learn about those things a long time ago. Oh, you don't want to learn about the things a long time ago. Everything is history. You're living history now because the time era that we're living in now will be recorded for generations later. Yeah. That's how we know about the history of generations that came before us. It had to be recorded by somebody. So you're living history now and you don't even know it. History is very important. Not his story, history, real history. Because his story, you look at the word history, his story is just the telling from his perspective of what history is. And we know that not to be true. All of the falsehood and the lies all throughout the course of American history, that's if you studied it and if you really know it. But if you haven't studied it and you don't really know it, then you don't see lies. You still believe that Columbus discovered America. You still believe that there's 7 continents. Yeah. You still believe that George Washington never told a lie. And you believe in the American dream. This is all the falsehood of American history. So when you study it, you see that Columbus never discovered America, that the myth about George Washington is not true, that there is not 7 continents that divides the world. Who taught you that? Who said that? So you have to look at these things in history and find out the truth about it. It was Napoleon who had sought out to, he went out attempting to conquer the world. That's what he believed in his own mind. He said, history is a fable agreed upon. Yeah, he said history is a fable agreed upon. A fable is a lie. You're not telling the truth. It's a lie. When I was a kid, they used to tell us fables. They're not true. They're stories. It's not true. And that's what we've been told as a people in America. Stories that were not true. His story, which is not true at all. But because we've been conditioned through the false information, miseducation, and indoctrination, we accept this as being true. And it shapes our whole mindset, shapes our values, our morals, our principles, our actions, and our behavior. So that's why when I look at all of these people wearing the Jordans, and I say to myself, yeah, they're caught up in the same thing that many of our people are caught up in. So I'm not surprised at all. And when they look at me and the way I dress and their response to it, I'm not surprised at that either. Because I know. See, I'm not under that conditioning anymore. I left that state of mind and conditioning when I was 17 years old, when I got knowledge of self. Many times people don't want to change. You know how many people I run into that they don't want to change? That they're comfortable with the way they are? See, so it's more than just the conditioning. They're comfortable with the way they are. That's the way that the conditioning has them. They're comfortable with the way they are. They don't look at anything wrong with the way they are. They don't look at that as anything wrong with it. So I understand. Because I know. That's why I understand. Now, last week I spoke about a little bit about when I dealt with the DNA. I also spoke about many of us involved in relationships and sexual encounters. It's not even a relationship, you're just having sex. Well, I spoke about as a result of that, the babies that was produced from those sexual encounters, and we do it as if there's nothing wrong with it. This is something that has really became a serious problem with us as a people. We just have sex freely. We don't even think about it. It's not even a thought. In fact, it's an afterthought. That is something that is a serious problem with us as a people. I speak to many young sisters that have babies that they not with the dude because they was never together anyway. They just having sex. And when she got pregnant, he's like, oh, what does that mean to him? Okay. She had the baby and okay. He ain't doing nothing about it. That's why you got so many court cases today with child custody and many going to court for child support. Now, years ago, they didn't do that. But today, yeah, child support cases now. So you got many men that if they're working, they're taking it out of their check because they're not taking care of their children. Now, they may make all kind of excuses, but there's no excuse not to take care of your own child. Doesn't matter what happened between you and the mother of your child. I don't call her no baby mama because that's disrespectful. I don't use terms like that. The black woman is not just some old baby machine where she just producing babies for you. No, I don't use those terms, baby mama. I don't. She giving birth to the future generation of our people. Now, whether you want to take the responsibility or not, that doesn't take away from the fact that she's doing what she's supposed to do as the nature of the black woman to prolong our existence as a people by producing the children of the world of tomorrow. Now, she might have made a bad choice in deciding to do it with you, but nevertheless, she is fulfilling her own nature. I would just hope that in the future, many of them, to my black women, make better choices in the kind of brothers that they decide to lay down with. But even more, change their conditioning, change their mindset, change their values, their morals, their principles, their actions, and their behavior. And that way, they will be a better judge of the kind of brother that they decide to have children with. It will be more of looking in terms of a family rather than just to have babies. Because that's what a lot of young sisters are doing today. They're just having babies. Ain't no family involved in that. They're just having babies. And you cannot really raise healthy children like that. I'm talking about healthy all around. Mentally, emotionally, psychologically, physically, where they have the proper values, morals, and principles, where their actions and behavior will be consistent with that. That is not what is happening today with many young men and young women, to my black men and women. Because they're still in that conditioning, that state of mind. So they're just having sex. And as a result, babies are born. There's a young sister that I see all the time. She works in one of the supermarkets that I go to do shopping. And I spoke to her because, I seen her about a year ago. She was pregnant. And, I never used to say anything to her. So one day I spoke to her on the line. And then this was after she had the baby. And one day I was leaving and she was getting off, so I spoke to her. Come to find out, she was 25 years old. She dealt with a brother who was 33, she said. And they had sex. And she got pregnant. Had the baby. She said, I said, well, is the father in a life of the child? She said, well, he said he was going to be there, but he hasn't been there. He said he was going to be there. Now, you can't look at situations like this and just blame the brother. No, it's both of them. They both made a decision to have sex with each other. Now, when he failed to do his part in terms of supporting and raising his own child, yeah, you got to blame him. Because if she's doing her part, and he's not doing his part, then yeah, you got to blame him. But they both made the choice to have sex with each other. And unfortunately, they are not the exception. They're becoming more and more the rule. And after speaking to her for some time, this is what she told me. I said, well, you need to, because she works in the supermarket, she's a cashier. I said, well, do you think about in terms of providing a future for your son? Because she has a son. Do you think about going to college or getting a trade or, because I know you're not planning on or thinking that you're going to be able to support a child with the kind of pay that you receive working in a supermarket. I mean, you're young now, but as time go on, you're going to need to be able to provide for you and your son. So she told me she didn't want to go to college. She don't like school. I said, well, what about trade? Do you ever think about anything you want to do? You never thought about anything that you want to do? She said, no. I said, well, you're 25 years old. I think you need to start thinking about that because it's no longer just you. You have to think in terms of the future of your child. So you can't just be thinking about yourself. It stopped being about you when you had the baby. So she was silent. And each day I would see her, I told her, you need to think about your future. You're not going to be working here all your life. You need to think about your future. You need to think about the future of your son. Each day I would see her, when I did get a chance to speak to her, sometimes she would be getting off and I would be coming in. So I would wait and speak to her. And she didn't appear that she was seriously thinking about any changes. And I speak to many sisters like that they're not doing anything to change their situation or better their situation. Now, there's some that I do run into occasionally that they are doing something to change their situation for the better. But many of them, they're just waiting on a check from welfare to take care of them and their child. And that's not a good thing at all. When you waiting for welfare to take care of you and babies that you keep having, Because I spoke to her and said, well, you know that when you're sexually active, many times the end result is that you have babies. So I told her you should stop being sexually active. That way you will eliminate the chances of having another baby. She didn't have anything to say about that. I guess, many of them, they don't see anything wrong with just having sex freely until they get pregnant. See, the dude don't have to worry about that, but the female has to worry about that. And it's not like they using protection, because if they was, she wouldn't have got pregnant. I mean, not that contraceptives is 100%. Doesn't mean that. But the chances are much better when you're using contraceptives or protection. It prevents pregnancy in a lot of cases. But, of course, that is not the case with a lot of these young girls that I'm seeing. I see a bunch of them just pushing carriages or strollers going up and down train steps. And I'm looking like, because I remember when I was a young man, that was a long time ago, but I didn't think about that either. And I wound up getting many young girls pregnant too. But their mothers decided that they wasn't going to let their daughters have babies at young ages. So they made them get abortions. Now, this is when I was 15 and 16 years old. That happened. But once I got knowledge of self at 17, I changed that behavior, because I knew and understood now that it was wrong to just be running around having sex with girls and them getting pregnant and having abortions. No, I knew that was wrong. So I changed that behavior. But it took time for me to go through the process of change. I had to first recognize that there was a need to change. But now today, you have a lot of young brothers and sisters that don't see no need to change. They don't see anything wrong with their behavior. Just having sex freely, they don't see anything wrong with that. They do it anywhere, anytime. They don't care. So this is why we have so many children being born today that are not properly nurtured, educated, and brought up with the right values, morals, and principles. So when I make videos, I mainly be attempting to reach young brothers and sisters like that. But of course, Many of them probably don't even look at the video at all. Now, of course, if I was making videos that dealt with other things that they was interested in, they would look at it. Because last week I spoke about all the pornography that is on the internet. Now, I bet you a lot of them is watching that. So if I was doing something like that, yeah, okay, they would watch the video. Something that they are interested in, something that they are being conditioned to deal with. Yeah, they're watching. But because I'm speaking about things about change and bettering yourself, changing that behavior, that mindset, that conditioning that you're under, they don't watch it. I know that from many times that I speak to a lot of them. When I start speaking about the things that I'm speaking about, they don't hear that. They just don't tell me that, but I can see they don't want to hear that. But that's what you're going to hear when I speak to you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. Because remember, in one of the videos I spoke about why we are under the conditioning, how it happened, and what we need to do to change it. And the first step starts with yourself. I even went into the African tradition of bringing a boy to manhood and bringing a girl to womanhood. We had what is called the rites of passage. That's why there was no such thing as teenage pregnancy problem. No such thing. Because the rites of passage for the boy to manhood and the rites of passage for the girl to womanhood taught them the proper values, morals, and principles. This is what guided their actions and their behavior. So there was no teenage pregnancy. There was no problem with having all these babies. But now, of course, we are not in that time era anymore. So the rites of passage is something that is unheard of. To most of them. So they just act out of conditioning. That's why we have the problems that we have today. But I want to be a part of helping to change that. And we start with ourselves. It can't just take place like that. It's a process. So if you're interested in any of that, you can call me. You don't have to buy any products. You can call me. My number is there, 347-659-0313. 347-659-0313. So you can call me and we can talk about that. because I think that it is something that many need to really deal with and address, because you're raising the future generations of our nation as a people. So I know that many young brothers and sisters need some kind of guidance, some kind of help. So if you think that you are open to that and you want to do something, then you can call me. I'll speak to you. I'll even help you to lay out a process that you can go through to bring about the changes that you need to get you out of that conditioning and that state of mind, to change your values, your morals, and your principles, your action and your behavior. So if you're interested in that, you can call me. My number is listed right on the website, babybeautiful.co. You can go right to that website and get the number, or you can get it right here, 347-659-0313. My email is allahforever11@icloud.com. You see it in the background, allahforever11@icloud.com. So with that, I'm going to end this video and say thank all those first that supported babybeautiful.co by ordering products, and welcome those who have not yet done so. Come on board. Become a part of the family. Let's build economically so that we can build communities to change the conditioning of what is happening to us as a people. Let's start that process with ourselves, and then in turn, prepare our babies so that they will not repeat the same process. Remember, I spoke about last week? Ask yourself, are you a part of the solution or are you a part of the problem? Now, if you're a part of the problem, then you need to become a part of the solution. That starts right now. Don't wait. It starts right now. So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings.